All right, let's dive into something that's, well, a huge paradox of life itself. Our bodies are incredible survival machines, right? But what if I told you they also come with a built-in self-destruct sequence? Today, we're going to explore that intricate dance between life, aging, and death, and it's all written right into our cells.
So, this really gets us to the big question right at the start. I mean, we spend our entire lives trying to stay alive. But what if, from the very moment you were conceived, your body has been following a script that includes not just survival, but deliberate self-destruction? So, is death a bug in our code, or is it actually a feature?
Okay, so to get to the bottom of that question, we first have to wrap our heads around this just fundamental paradox that's built right into life. It's this wild contradiction, isn't it? Every single system in your body, from your immune response to how you get energy from food, it's all geared towards one thing, keeping you going. And yet, tucked away inside our own genetic code is a detailed, deliberate program for cellular suicide. How can those two opposing instructions possibly exist at the same time? Well, here's the twist. It turns out this so-called self-destruct program isn't about random destruction at all. In fact, it's one of the most creative forces in our development. You can think of it as the body's own master sculptor, shaping us from the very beginning. The official name for this is apoptosis, and the two key words you need to remember are active and genetically controlled. See, this isn't a cell getting damaged by an injury or something. No. This is a cell getting a specific internal order to neatly and quietly dismantle itself, all for the greater good of the whole body. So yeah, don't think of it as a wrecking ball smashing things to pieces. Think of it more like a master sculptor's chisel, carefully and precisely carving away bits of material to create a masterpiece. And you know what that masterpiece is? It's you. And this isn't some abstract idea. It's absolutely crucial. For real, without apoptosis, you would have been born with webbed hands like a frog. This process carves out pathways in our bodies and even prunes connections in our brain to make it work better. And this whole elegant system is tightly controlled by specific genes that basically act like on-off switches for cell death. It's literally construction through deconstruction. Okay, so that's programmed death on a tiny, super precise level. But what about the bigger picture? Let's kind of zoom out now from the targeted death of a single cell to that much more complicated system-wide process that we all experience, aging. Right, so unlike that clean surgical process of apoptosis, aging is, well, it's messier. It's not just one single thing. It's probably better to think of it as a whole collection of different processes, a slow deterioration that happens over time. And scientists have a few leading theories about what's really driving this countdown. The first big idea is something you can think of as cellular rust. You know, just like a piece of metal that's been left out in the rain for years. The idea is that our bodies just slowly, inevitably accumulate damage over a lifetime. And a primary cause of this damage are these little troublemakers called reactive oxygen species, or ROS for short. They're basically unstable byproducts of our own metabolism. You know, the very process of turning food into energy creates them. Over time, these molecules just bounce around inside our cells, damaging our DNA, our proteins, literally causing our internal machinery to rust from the inside out. All right. Theory number 2. This one is less about damage from the outside and more about a built-in limit from within. I want you to imagine the little plastic tips on your shoelaces and how they get a little frayed and shorter every single time you tie them. Well, in our cells, those little plastic tips are called telomeres. They're protective caps on the very ends of our chromosomes. And every time a cell divides, those telomeres get just a tiny bit shorter. Eventually, they get so short that the cell can't divide safely anymore. So it just stops. It's like a built-in cellular clock that limits the lifespan of our tissues. Okay, so we've got damage from the outside and we've got this built-in limit from the inside. But what if there's a third option? What if aging isn't just something that's happening to us at all? What if it's an active program written right into our genes, just like that cell sculpting we saw earlier? And get this, scientists have actually found evidence for this. They found specific genetic pathways that seem to be the master controls for lifespan. There was this famous experiment with a tiny worm, C. elegans, where they were able to dramatically extend its life just by tweaking a single gene pathway related to insulin. That suggests our bodies might have genes whose entire job is just to regulate the pace of aging. So we have programmed death sculpting us, and we have aging as this complex mix of damage and maybe even programming. But what about that final stage of decline, a process called senescence? You might think of it as just fading away, right?
But it turns out nature has a really surprising twist for us here. Okay, check this out. In animals, we usually see senescence as just decline. Cells stop dividing, things start to break down. But in plants, it's a totally different story. It's an active, strategic phase of development. When a leaf turns brown in the fall, it's not just passively dying. It's running a highly organized program to break down its own cells, salvage valuable stuff like nitrogen, and pull all of it back into the main plant before the leaf is finally discarded. It's not decay, it's a controlled retreat.
And that completely changes how you look at it, right? What we see as decline isn't always a bug. Sometimes, just like that sculpting process of apoptosis, it's a feature, a programmed, strategic process designed for the good of the whole organism. It seems both the building of our bodies and their eventual decline might be two sides of the very same programmed coin.
Which brings us right back to where we started. Life's blueprint contains the code to create us through this incredible cellular sculpture, but it also seems to contain the code for us to age and decline. The ultimate question isn't just if we can learn to rewrite this code, but do we understand it well enough to know if we even should?